We're going to start today to create a free Seesaw account. So I'm going to go to this address bar and I'm going to type in seesaw.me. I'm going to search for the Seesaw page. Once this has loaded, I'm going to choose sign up for a free account. Now that I am here, I'm going to choose a teacher account. So I'm going to choose I am a teacher, and it's going to ask me how to create my account. I want to sign up with Google since I'm an APS employee. I already have a Google account. When I do that, it's going to take me to my accounts and I'm going to choose my account. Now I have automatically been set up and ready to create my account. It is telling me I don't have any classes yet, so you're going to create your first class. So over here to the left, you can see that this is where my account is. When I click on that and open it up, the gear right here takes me to the settings of my account as well as to create a class. I'm going to choose create a new class. I have the option, and this is the only time you have the option, to import from Google Classroom. So if I already had a Google Classroom set up, I would import that. And then I'm going to create my class name. I'm going to call my class EdTech. You can choose any grade level currently. I'm going to choose 5th grade. You are not stuck on this grade level if you choose it. And then I'm going to click the green check. Now that you have your account made, for a limited time, you can upgrade it to the Pro. When I click on my elementary school principal account over here, and I go to the gear for my settings, if I come over here to account settings, if I scroll down, here's where my name, display name, everything is housed. If I choose right here for Seesaw Plus, I can choose Try Seesaw Plus. Once I've done that, I'm going to start my 60-day free trial, which should take you through the rest of the school year. Now that I have started that, I go ahead and I choose OK, and my trial has been activated, which is awesome. Here's also where you can go to apply to become a Seesaw ambassador. Down here is where you have your email notifications. You can push notifications if you have an iOS or Android device. And then if you want to stay up to date with tips, tricks, and Seesaw email updates, you can definitely turn those on. So if I turn these on, here's also where you can archive a class. So you want to archive a class after the year is done. So if I come in here, I don't have any archived classes yet, but you can save your classes from year to year and you can archive them again. So those are some of the basic features in your account settings. When I come back over here, now that I've been upgraded to Pro, it has unlocked some other items. I can also come down here, and when I choose this gear, this is also how I go to sign out. This is where you could also switch to a student account as well if you needed to see something as a student. Again, this all lives under your account over here on the top left. And if you notice here, I have 2 classes. In the next video section, you will see how we will go ahead and create a class so you can have more than one class. So now that you're here in your classroom, if you go to the top left, you can see that I have my EdTech class. Notice I can also create a new class. When I choose create a new class, again, anytime you create a new class, this is the only time you'll be able to import from Google Classroom. You would choose your class name. Remote learning with Miss M. And then I can choose my grade level. So if I am working with multiple grade levels, if I'm a middle school teacher, I could have one class for each subject area, depending on how I want to do that. Then you'll click the green check and notice now your class has been made. Once you're there and you've created this classroom, you can come over to the wrench on the right, and here's where all your settings are. So for class settings, here's where my class name is. If I open this up, I could come in here and I could change my name. So if I wanted to change this to language arts, I could change it to language arts and saved. I can come in here if I made a mistake and I want to choose a different grade level. I can choose a different grade level. Under here is where you manage teachers. Clicking on this, I notice I'm the current teacher in this classroom, but I could invite another teacher to join my class. If I wanted to invite Minakuchi at APS, we'll send an email. You can have up to 3 teachers who teach with you in this class. So if you needed to have a therapist, a SLP, an OT, maybe a counselor, maybe you want to work as a grade level, you can have up to 3 teachers join your classroom. So I've had teachers be sent the invite, and then once they've accepted that invite, they'll show up here. Along with that, I can come in and I can change my colors of my theme. So if I'd like to have a purple class, and then I can come in here, it's going to default to the initials, but if I wanted to change it to a different icon so my students know which class they need to be a part of. From there, you can come down and you can decide how students are going to sign in. So currently it defaults to the email Google account. That is what our students currently have in APS. Every single student has a Gmail account. It's their 9-digit student ID at aps.edu. You can use this. You can also go in here and use a class code for later purposes if you have one-to-one devices. Right now, a Seesaw is recommending you to use this class code for shared devices. By choosing this, you will get a home code letter that you can send to your students. You're not set in stone, so notice I chose that and it instantly changed it. If I go back to my email, my Google account, it's going to ask if I want to change this as well, confirm the change. So you can start out one way and you can change it back to the other way. So notice it's been moved back to the email Google account. Again, APS students all have an email address, a Google email account. It is their 9-digit student ID at aps.edu. If I choose the class code on a shared device, I'm going to go ahead and choose that and I'm going to save it. Now that I have that set up, I can come in here and I can choose add students. So it's going to ask me again, do you want students to sign in using their Google or email account? I can choose yes. If I want to do the Google account sign in, if I have younger students, a K1 or a preschool, I could choose no and they would just use the code that they're given. So if I choose no on that, I'm going to choose a shared device because they may have siblings, and I can come in here and I can actually just start typing in their name. So I have Brian, Tina, Aaron, Leticia, and Eric. I'm starting to add in those students. Again, you can always add more later. I'm going to click my green check mark. So those students have been added to my class. Notice right away, students are given this code, but I can also print a student sign-in poster. And when I click off of this, I can come back in here and I can add more students. I can pull a list of students' names. So if I already had a list of names, I can copy and paste and add them directly in. Make sure you have one student per line. So that they add in correctly. When I click my check mark, those students have been added to my class. So notice down here, here's all of my students in my class, and I have a sample student. Now you're wondering, how do I get them to join my class? So Seesaw has added this use Seesaw for home learning, get home learning codes. When I choose get home learning codes, it's going to ask me which class I want my codes for. So if I want the language arts class and I choose print codes, it's going to load my PDFs. Here is all of the instructions that I need. And then if you notice here, each student is given their own unique code to join my class. Notice down here, this code is good until July of 2020. And down here is the link. When I click that, it's going to give the individual code to parents, and they can have it in Spanish. And it also gives a list of resources. When I choose the back button, notice here, I have a code for everybody in my class to be able to join. And every student has the option to have it in Spanish. So now that we've learned about class settings and the student sign-in mode, let's look here at some of the other options. You have your home learning codes for students. So when you click on that, you can print the codes or download the codes to share out to your families. Again, if I choose print the codes, it's going to give me all the directions of what I need to do to send this home, how they need to set up their codes, where they need to go. And then, for example, on Brian's, it shows us how he can access it from a laptop, a phone, or a tablet. Here is the code that they can use, the built-in code. And then they also have a scannable QR code. This code is good until July 19th of 2020. And then also here's where they would click to have it translated into Spanish. Notice my entire class is here, so everybody's codes are ready to go. When I come back to my settings, we were over here in the wrench. When I click on that X, to get back to this, I'm over here on the right and I click on the wrench. When I go down here, I have this option of whether students can like and comment on each other's work. So if I enable likes, that means that if something is posted in the stream of activities, they can like each other's work. I can also enable students comments so that they can comment. And then I always want to make sure, especially now, that new comments require approval. So they won't just post automatically. I'll have to approve their comments. From that, you can decide whether or not you want students to be able to see each other's work. You can keep it so that it's just you're the only one who sees the work and the family sees the work. So if I turn that off, none of my students can see each other's work. If I turn this back on, everybody can see it. We always recommend that maybe for the time being until we get adjusted, that new items require approval, just in case something inappropriate gets added or there was a mistake made. You always want to make sure that you have this on. If you enable editing, this allows for your students to go back and edit. We also recommend that you enable sample students. The sample student is there so that you can model that over a Google Meet so that your students can actually see the activity and what you're asking them to do. You have the option to enable family access. By enabling family access, you can invite families to be able to see the students' work. This also allows for you to be able to add them to class announcements and send newsletters and information home. Same thing here, you can pin to family approvals, so you can decide whether or not something gets shared, and then you have the power to enable family sharing, allow for families to like, and then with that turned on, you always are requiring approval before something is posted, just so you can make sure that everything is appropriate there. Once you've enabled your family access, you can come up here and you can invite your family members. So I could come in here and I can invite families by email or by phone number. So I could add in, if I was Tina's family, I could add her family in to be connected, or I can invite them via a phone number. You can add another family member. You can add up to 8 family members per um, family. You can also print out invites, and then you can choose the language you'd like to send home that invite in for them to be a part of your classroom. The other option is you can share an invite link. So you can copy this link and share it and email it out through Synergy Mail to your families or any other way you have contact with them. Maybe you're using ClassDojo or Remind. So that is how you would add families to your classroom. When you're done, you would click the X over here and they've been added. The last thing on the wrench down here is if you'd like to enable a class blog. So currently, with the Pro version, you can turn on this class blog and manage folders as well as skills. I recommend right now that you don't add any of that in for distance learning or the continuous learning plan. At the end of this year, you'd come down here and this is where you would archive your class so that you'll be ready for next year. Now that we're done with that, we're going to move into the activity library. Once we're in this activity library, we're going to go ahead and we're going to browse the activities. So notice in our activity library, we have a community library where people all over the world have shared activities, and you have your own personal library. We're going to start with the community library. I am going to click on this drop-down menu, and you can see that you have all grades all the way up to grade 12 or other. So if I choose all, it's going to sort my library based on all. And then I can choose specific subjects. If I start here and go down, you can see that I have a ton of subjects to choose from, but I'm going to currently choose all. On top of that, you can tell that right here, they've categorized 127 activities for home learning for K-5. They have 44 other activities for older students, and then they have some remote learning activities. As we go down here, you can see that there's trending searches. This offers you all these different activities and trends that folks are looking for. The next category is popular this week. You can see that there's all of these different activities that have been pretty popular this week. As we continue to scroll down, these are some of our feature authors from Seesaw. These folks contribute a lot of different activities that they add to the activity library all of the time. Then we have a recently added. Seesaw takes the time and they go through and they vet all of the activities that have been submitted. So you know that they've been through a process before they're added to the library. So these ones were recently added to the activity library so that you could see some different activities that are going on. Down here, there's some different collections that have been set up that you can jump through in different categories or collections. And then again, down here we have browse by subject and browse by grade level. So if I wanted to come back up here and I wanted to choose all grades, and then I'm going to choose the subject of digital citizenship, I could see that there's these activities that have already been set up and they fall under that category. If you notice here, each activity has a little heart next to it. That allows for you to make the activity a favorite. And when you click on that heart, it then appears in your library. So down here, you can see the amount of people who have liked these activities and are using them. The higher the number, the more frequent this activity has been used. It doesn't mean it's a bad activity. It just means that it's been added to Seesaw classrooms more frequently than they have others. So if I come back up here and I choose this activity about how to use Seesaw cameras and shapes, or if I'm going to come down here, I want to talk about my digital footprint. So I'm going to put a heart on that because I want that to be added to my library. and I'm going to choose my digital footprint. Notice when you've come to this pre-made activity, she already has a template added. She has gone in here and she has given a title to it. She's added in some great directions, and then she has linked it to computer science, digital citizenship science, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And notice down here what this is compatible with. She's given you all of the activities that it's compatible with. Right here, it gives you a reminder on how to use this. You'll use the heart, then assign the activities to your students. Your students can respond using the Seesaw tools, and then you can approve the responses. Before I choose assign, I can come here and I can click these 3 dots, and I could add this to a collection that I have set up. I can copy and edit the activity, or I could remove it from my library. We're not going to talk about the share activity at this moment. So if I come up here and I choose copy and edit this activity, I now have this activity ready to go. I'm going to come up here to help my students, and I'm going to add in the date that I'm assigning this. And I'm going to add that this is lesson number 1 for my day. I'm going to come down here and I notice that I have this, the lady who made this, she had the directions, but she didn't add any voice instructions. So I'm going to add voice instructions to differentiate my lesson so that my students can actually hear the activity. When I choose that, it's going to bring up this button that will allow for me to begin to record. I'm going to tap on the microphone and it will count me in. Number 1, tap the add button to begin the activity. Step 2, use the label tool to create labels to show ways you can create a positive digital footprint. Use the sample for ideas. Step 3, tap the microphone and share how you will be a good digital citizen. Step 4, tap the check to add it to your journal. So as you can see, I've now added recorded directions to my activity. If I didn't like the directions, I can click on these 3 dots. I could actually download it if I needed to, or I could choose the X and I could exit out and re-record. If I needed to make any adjustments to my directions, I could come in here. I like her template, so I'm going to keep her template. Once I'm all done, I'm going to click on the bottom right corner and choose Save. Now that I've saved that activity, it's under my account, I can choose Assign. When I come to Assign, I can decide where I want to assign it to. Since I have 2 classrooms, I could assign it to both of my classes. I can also come in here and schedule my activity. If I wanted, since this is the first lesson, I wanted it to be released this morning at 8 o'clock, I can come in and I can release that at 8 o'clock. Or I can assign it immediately. If I want to assign it immediately, I'm going to click my checkbox here. I have it assigned to 2 classes, and I'm going to go ahead and click Assign. I also have the option to come in here and assign it to specific students. So if I didn't want all of my students to have this activity, I could come in here and I could assign it to very specific students. For this activity, I want everybody to participate, so I'm going to check that box and I'm going to assign it to both of my classes. I'm going to choose Assign and notice that it's been assigned right away. When I go to my EdTech class, I will see that this is my first activity and it's been added to my class and they're ready to go. If I want to continue to plan, I can come back down here and go to the Browse Activity Library. I can again come up here and I can choose all activities and all subjects, and then I could choose a new assignment. Say I want to add a math assignment in here. So I'm going to make that a favorite. I'm going to click on that activity. And again, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. I'm going to click my 3 dots and I'm going to say copy and edit activity. I want to come in here and I want to put that date back on. And I'm going to put this as lesson 2. because this way my students know this is the second thing I'd like them to complete. Notice that they already have directions on here to make homemade Play-Doh, and then they have recorded directions for my students. And then they show an example of what they could be doing to work with fractions. When I'm all done, I'm going to choose Save, and then I'm going to assign. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign this to my 2 classes, and I'm going to assign right away. So if I go back to my EdTech classroom, notice they come in the order that you have assigned. So the last one you've assigned is at the top. So my students will need to understand that they'll need to scroll down to find lesson 1 and then find lesson 2. You cannot redo the order in which you have done an assignment. The only way to change that would have been to assign this first and assign this second so that lesson number 1 would have been on top. When I go back to my activity library, that is how you work the community. When I go to my own personal library, you can see that I have the Play-Doh assignment that I liked and I personalized. I also have the digital footprint one that I have personalized as well. I could go in here and I could add these to specific categories. So if you notice, I have collections down here. So I want to add this one to my digital citizen collection. So I'm going to click on the 3 dots on the bottom. I'm going to say add to collection, and I'm going to choose digital citizenship. Then I'm going to hit the plus. When I go back to my library, notice now I have 2 activities in my digital citizenship library. If I go back to my library, I can then assign this to math. If I go down here and I say add to collection, I can choose math. And now I can view my collection and see that this has been added to my math collection. So now you can see all of my recent activities are going to start to gather up here. I have collections, so I made a digital citizenship, a math, and a reading one. And then I can also come in here and I can create my own activities. So if I choose the plus sign, I can come in here and I can create my own activity. So I'm going to make this one week of April 20th, nightly reading. I can come in here and I can decide what I would like. Please choose 5 books to read with your family. Each day I want you to draw your favorite part of your book you read. I want you to, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to say, please record yourself talking about the favorite part of the story. So now you're wondering, how did these other folks get these cool icons into their instructions? So we have this great help sheet that I will make sure we attach. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you what it looks like. So here is the icon page that you would use. So if I wanted for video, I'm going to do : video : and add that in. So please record a video. And then I'm going to put That will actually appear in my directions. Okay, I can also add in an emoji if I wanted to, an emoji appear. And then I'm going to say number 4, click on the check to turn it in. Right? I could then add my voice instructions as I showed before. I could add in a multimedia instructions or example, and I can also add in a template. When I'm all done, I'm going to choose save and actually record my voice instructions. Hello students, this week I want you, for nightly reading, to number 1, choose 5 books to read with your family. Number 2, each day I want you to draw your favorite part of the book you read. Number 3, record a video of yourself talking about your favorite part of the story. And number 4, click on the green check to turn it in. So you can see that quickly I'm able to add in directions for my students so that they can not only see it, but they can also hear it. When I'm all done, I'm going to choose save. And now you can see the little video camera appeared as well as the green check mark. And then I can come in here and I can choose to assign this to my classes. But I'm going to schedule that. I'm going to schedule that for 3 o'clock today so that they're not overwhelmed. So I'm going to assign that. I'm going to click my checkbox and I'm going to assign to both of my classes at 3 o'clock that this is the nightly reading that I'd like for them to be able to do. When I go back to my language arts classroom, you can see here, oops, I chose the wrong classroom. And that's okay. Oops, I'm not going to go to the YouTube video. I'm going to go back to my home button and I'm going to choose EdTech. And notice you can see that I have my assignments. When I come to my activities, notice I have my lesson 1 and my lesson 2. But if I choose scheduled, you can see that this one of We Are Digital Citizenships is scheduled for tomorrow. And then this week of April 20th, nightly reading is scheduled today at 3. So that is how you would build an activity in your activity library. To go back, you're going to choose Activities, Browse Activity Library. You can either search for pre-built ones, or you can go into your personal library and create activities. Notice here's the one I just created, so it will be saved in my activities. I still have the same features that I can click on the 3 dots and I can add it to my collection and add it to reading. And now down here, you can see that it's been added to my reading. So I'm in my activity library and I want to go in and I want to edit an activity. I'm going to choose this counting money lesson. So I'm going to click on it. When I'm here, I'm going to go to my 3 dots in the corner and I'm going to choose Edit Activity. So notice I have made my title so that it matches my format so that it has the date and which lesson and then the title of what we're doing. If we look at my instructions, I don't have any of the symbols in there. So I want to change where it says tap the label tool. I want to change this so that it matches and will show up. So I'm going to choose colon, label, colon, tool to label the coins. Tap again, I want to change this to so that the little label icon shows up. And then I want to take a video. So I want to add in my video here so that my students know that I actually want them to create a video. And then I want tap the green circle with the red checkbox. So I'm going to put in here, I'm going to put check so that they can see the symbol. When I'm done with that, I'm going to come down here and I want to add my voice instructions because I want to make sure that I'm differentiating the instructions. So I'm going to tap Add Voice Instructions. I'm going to choose click the button to begin the recording. We will be counting money. Number 1, tap the label tool to label each coin amount. Number 2, tap the label tool to label the total amount of cents. Number 3, take a video to explain how you got the total number of coins. Number 4, tap the check green circle with the white check in it to add it to your journal. So as you can see, it's processing my video, and now I have instructions on there. I'm also going to add in a template for my students to respond to. So I'm going to choose Add a Template, and I'm going to choose Upload because I already have a template chosen. So I'm going to grab this template from my desktop, and I'm going to drop this file in there. Notice here I can drop files and I can add up to 9 more photos if I want. If you come down here, I could select from my computer, or I could go straight to my Google Drive. Once I have this template in here, I'm going to choose my check mark. It's going to bring me to what would look like my students' worksheet that they're going to see. If I'm happy with the way this is laid out, I can come over here and I could zoom out or I could zoom in. I'm happy with the layout, so I'm going to go ahead and go over here and click the checkbox. Now that that template has been attached for my students, my lesson is ready to go and I can choose Save. I also have other options that if I wanted to leave some information for myself to learn more about this, and I can adjust this skill where I can choose Edit, and I could start tagging my own skill set for my students below if I wanted to add in a different tag for a skill. I can also add in multimedia instructions or an example. When I do that, I could come in here, I could choose my same file, I can choose this checkbox, and now I could record and show my students how I'd like this to be done. So I'm going to count them in. I'm going to start recording. I'm going to say click on the label tool over here, and I'm going to bring this tool over, and I want my students, to label this first one. So if it's 10, going to close this up, and then I'm actually going to drag this here and have my students add in 10. Then I could come in here. If you don't want to use the label, you could actually write. So my students could write 10, 10. And then once you have all of your coins labeled, I want you to put in the correct total. And I would hit stop. Notice that I have this done for my students. I can hit play. And then I can go back now that I have this ready to go. So my example's ready to go. I'm not sure why it's not letting me. It's currently uploading my information here, my sample. Now it's been loaded. So now I can add this multimedia example in. So I can have an example to model for my students what I would like them to do in the template. Notice that I use the drawing tool, so I can come up here and I could change my directions as well. So I could come in here and I could edit, and I could say, number 3, if you would like to use the pencil to write your answers in, you can do that as well. So I can change for the pencil icon. And I could put the colons in front here. And now I can change that direction. I can come in here and I can re-record as well. And then I choose save. And now notice on my assignment, I have the tools that are in place. I also have the pencil here and the videos. And then I have the instructions along with my template and my example for my students. When I'm done, I can go back in here and now I can assign it to my class. And they've been given that assignment. So if I come here to my ed tech, if I didn't at that time change the the verbal instructions, I can go back in here. Again, I can edit my activity. I can delete this recording since I added something new, and I can add in my voice instructions. We will be counting money. Step 1, tap the label tool to label each coin amount. Step 2, tap the label tool to label the total amount of cents. Step 3, if you would like to use the pencil to write your answers in, you can do that as well. Step 3, which actually should be step 4. So notice I have to do a little bit of editing here. I can come in here and I can make my corrections. That's the nice thing of Seesaw, is it'll go in and it will allow for you to make any editing and changes that you need. So I can again delete this and re-record. We will be counting money. Tap the label tool to label each coin amount. Number 2, tap the label tool to label the total amount of cents. Number 3, if you would like to use the pencil to write your answer in, you can do that as well. Number 4, take a video to explain how you got the total number of coins. Number 5, check the green circle with the white check in it to add it to your journal when you are finished. Once I've done and edited all of that, I go ahead and I hit save, and my corrections and changes have been made here. We're now going to take a look on how to show and demo an activity or also try it out. So here's my stream that has all of my activities. I'm going to choose this one. So I'm going to click add a response. I'm going to go up to my sample student. Once I have seen my sample student, here is where I can view my instructions. So this gives me all of the instructions of what I'm supposed to do. And I can also listen to the audio instructions here as well. If you notice over here on the top, there's the magnifying glass to zoom in. This is also the cropping tool. This is the tool that we talk about to label. Here's where you would click to record what you're doing. Here's where the camera is. This is where you can add in shapes and backgrounds. Down here at the bottom is the quotations. So if I want to add a voice captioning in for my students, I can click on that. This is known as the pencil tool. This one is the marker or drawing tool. Here's the highlighting tool. This is the magic annotation tool. Here is where the eraser is. If I come over here, this is where I adjust the colors for each pen that is highlighted. Down here is where I can add an additional page. So if I wanted to try this out, if I go back to view my instructions, it's asking me to label the tool and tap the smiley emoji. So this would be as though they were working on an iPad or an iPhone. This could be modified and they could use the keyboard. So if I choose this label tool, when my little crosshairs appear, I can actually go ahead and drag and move this over. And then since I'm on a computer, I can right click, or I can go up to my edit and I can choose emojis and symbols. And so here's where I can come in and start to add my family. I'm going to make my family superheroes. So I'm going to add myself in, and then I would add in, I would go back up here again and choose my emoji. And I'm going to add in my daughter and I. And then if I continue with that, I would add in another label, just grab it, move it over here for animals, adjust the box so that it fits. And I'm going to choose my emojis again. And I'm going to choose, if I wanted to come up here, I can search for dogs. So I'm going to put in a dog. And then I'm going to add in a turtle. And you would continue on to fill this out. If I wanted to come in here and use the pencil, I could change my ink color and I could write my favorite food. If I didn't like that, I can use the eraser and I can come in and I can erase that. Notice here, if I hold this down, if I tap on it, I can change the size of my pencil. I can make it thicker or thinner. Same thing with the eraser. I can come in here and I can erase. When I add a new page in, it's asking me to add another page. This allows for me to come in here and I can change my backgrounds. So if I wanted to change it to a gradient fill, if I wanted to use a grid or lined paper, music paper, or dots, I can add that in. I can also add in a gradient fill and change that for my students if I wanted to change that background. I'm going to choose this paper. I can click off, and then I can come here and I could have my students practice writing their name. I can also go in here and add a new page. And if I wanted to add in shapes, so if my students were working with base 10 blocks, I can come in here by clicking these three dots. I can lock it, I can change the color style, I can change the order, I can also duplicate. So if I needed to duplicate rather quickly, I could. If I wanted to add in another shape, if I was working with fractions, I can make this shape larger. I can come in here and I can have my students cut it in half. So we could talk about fractions, might look a little nicer than that. I can also come in here and I can choose a photo. So if I allow Seesaw to take a photo, here I am. I'm gonna hold this up, smile. Seesaw has now taken a photo of me, and I can add that in to this and maybe have my students write about it. If I choose lock, I can lock it on the screen and it's not going to go anywhere. I can then unlock it. I can move this up here. If I want to record, I'm going to start recording and I can record my thoughts. So here I am. This is me today using Seesaw. I'm going to go back over to my shapes and I have 200, but I also want to add in some tens. So now I've added in some tens. So I'm going to talk about my mathematical thinking here. Kids get creative and they like to change the colors. So they can change the colors on this. And then I'd like them to be able to write their number So I have 220 represented with my base 10 blocks over here. When I'm done recording, I will come up here and I'll hit done. Notice it gives me the recording and I can re-record. While it's uploading, my green checkbox is not going to appear yet because it's processing my video and it's getting ready to upload it. So it's going to take just a second to upload. And as soon as it's done uploading, that green check mark will appear. As a student, they have the opportunity to respond. When I choose this green plus, I can post student work. So here's all of the options that they have to post students' work. They can choose photo and take a photo. They can go into drawing, which we've covered previously. They can record a video. They can upload. So if you choose upload, they can drag and drop one file. They can add up to 10 images, one PDF, or one video in the format of MP4, MOV, or WebM. Down here at the bottom, you can also see they could select directly from their Google Drive, or they could add from their computer. If I choose select from Google Drive, students can upload a Google Doc. They'll have to choose their account. And then it comes to their drive. So notice they could add from their drive, from a shared drive, from a folder that's been shared by me, from their documents, their Google Slides, their Google Images, their Sheets, or from your PDFs. So they can choose one of these to add in to their Seesaw to give you a response. Once they've done that, so if I select from my Google Drive, I'm going to go to my docs. And I'm going to bring in this counting about money, and I'm going to select that. So I have the work that they've done. Now it brought me in here, and I could mark it up and add to it. When I'm all done, I can hit the check mark, and I'm going to choose to add it to my sample student because that's where I'm going to add that in. Same thing applies if I want to add a link. I can come here and I could go to Flipgrid and I want them to say hello. So this top link where I got this from is here's my joke of the day grid. And I went to say hello. I'm going to choose the rocket ship. This top link here asks for students to sign in with their Google account. This bottom one, I turned on guest mode. So see Flipgrid for more information on how to do this. And I'm going to choose the guest mode topic. I'm going to copy that link. And I'm going to go back to Seesaw. And I'm going to paste that link in here. The reason I chose the guest link is that it doesn't then have to have my students sign in again to an additional platform. When I click that check, that's now been added. So now I can explain and reflect on this link if I want to. Down here, you notice I can record or add a caption. And then when I add the check mark, I'm going to choose to add it to student 1. Click that check. And now that's been added in here as well. So my student would just go in, they'd link directly to Flipgrid. I can come in here again and I can still edit this item to add some content to it. Same with the one that I did below. The last thing I want to show you is when you choose this green check, you can send an announcement. When I come down here, this is how I can send announcements to my students and family when I've added family members. So this is a great way to share newsletters with some updated information. You can also add in attachments. So if I wanted to add an attachment, if I wanted to upload and I wanted to add this form of how to log in to your Chromebook, I can send this PDF. I choose this check mark. Once I've updated that, I can change this now to how to log into your Chromebook. It likes that capital C. And then I choose who I want to send that to. If I'm going to send that to all of my students, I can type some more in here. And then I choose send now. And now all of my students will have this announcement in their inbox. When they come over here to the inbox, they'll see that there's a notification. And you can see that I sent a notification to my students. They can check the recent notifications. They can also come here to messages and see that under student announcements, I have an announcement and I sent something to everybody. So that is how you would send an announcement. Again, it's up here at the green plus. Choose this. You would send an announcement. And then you have the option to send it to your students, your connected families, or you would send it to both. At this point, I would send it to both because you either have students and family members connected. That is the overall work of Seesaw. So please, if you have questions, contact edtech@aps.edu.